I read 14 dark romance books in 14 days, and today we're going to talk about Death's Obsession by Avina St. Graves. And the thing that pulled me into this book, and the reason that I chose it for this series, is because of the author's note and the dedication at the beginning. It was really clear that she was just looking to have a good time and was inviting you along for the ride, so let me show you what I mean. The author's note says, "If you by chance know Greek mythology and are well versed in Latin, I sincerely apologize for this book. It won't be accurate." And then the dedication says, well, I'll let you read that for yourself. Death's Obsession is a dark stalker romance in which the male love interest is the literal personification of death. His name is Latum, which is Latin for death or dying or something similar to that. It doesn't translate directly, thus the author's note. And he is in love with Lily, or Lilith. She was supposed to die in a car accident a year ago, but he refused to reap her soul because he fell in love with her the instant he saw her, and instead basically just wouldn't take her soul, and so she survived it. And she really shouldn't have. Since the accident, Latum has been leaving her love letters that say things like, "You look beautiful while you sleep." He leaves flowers on her pillow while she's sleeping in her bed. He leaves gifts in her locker at work, and cash in her purse, and food in her refrigerator, and just sort of, general stalker romance stuff. It's kind of like Haunting Adeline, but in my opinion, it's a lot better done, and the writing is a lot better. The book deals with things like mental health and loss and trauma, but it does it in a pretty responsible way, which was kind of a pleasant surprise. You don't really expect that sort of thing when you're going into a book like this, but I feel like it was responsibly handled, and it was really nice to see. It does have quite a lot of explicit on-page sex, lots of spice, which is kind of the expectation when you're going into this subgenre. It's also got some pretty heavy content warnings, so I'll make sure that I put all of those on the screen. If any of the things in this list bother you in a book, this probably isn't going to be the one for you. So no matter how highly I recommend it, if any of this stuff is going to make you have a hard time, it's not worth it. Just skip this one. While we're here talking about content warnings, videos on YouTube that are made for a more mature audience tend to get sort of pushed to the side in favor of more family-friendly content. So if you like dark romance books and you want to see more content like this, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Not only does it train YouTube's algorithm to give you more videos about these kind of books, it also helps other people who are into the same type of book find content like this, like mine and others who are reviewing these types of books. So do that. It helps me, it helps you. Yeah, okay, back to the book. This is actually a more character-focused book. There is a plot, things do move forward in an orderly fashion, but the main focus of the story is Lily's internal development as a character. When she got in that car accident a year ago, she lost her twin sister. And her parents had passed shortly before then. So it was a lot of loss and a lot of grief, and she never really dealt with it. She's just sort of been going along to get along, and she doesn't stand up for herself. She's basically been doing the bare minimum in order to survive. And we sort of watch her over the course of almost another year after, so basically 2 years after the accident, while this love affair with death is going on. She sort of plugs back into life. She starts re-engaging, she starts sort of speaking up for herself and start taking better care of herself, and just sort of re-engaging with the living world, which was an interesting arc to choose, but it really worked within the context of the story. I should note that none of this is him, like, fixing her. He doesn't save her. He just sort of shows her that he values her and then gets out of her way so that she can learn to value herself as well. And it's a really hard thing to explain, but that's basically the gist of the story that goes on here. And it was more poignant than I expected for this type of book. That's not what I expected when I was going into it, but I really enjoyed it. So let's talk about some things that I really liked. Things in this book that really worked for me. I loved how tender Death was. He was thoughtful and caring and attentive, but not in an overbearing way or not in a controlling way. He is genuinely concerned for her wants and needs and well-being, not just in relation to him, but also like as a person and her sort of refinding herself and making sure that she has the time and space to do that. And it was an interesting mix, considering that this is what can only be considered a stalker romance, but like, I don't know, it was a weird balance, but it really worked for me. And obviously you would never want somebody to behave like this in real life. Like, you wouldn't want somebody to like break into your house and watch you sleep. It's never the kind of thing you would want in real life, obviously, but this is a fantasy book, right? Like, it's a thing that you're supposed to like let your inhibitions go, and in the book it's kind of hot. I also feel like the characters of Latham and Lily were both pretty well developed. They both have their own thoughts and feelings and goals that aren't necessarily revolving around each other. His is to escort souls into the afterlife for eternity, and hers is to sort of pull her life back together after a bunch of tragedy and loss, you know, just living life, and learning how to re-engage with life after that sort of thing happened. But just because I thought that the characters were well developed doesn't mean that I think that their love story was perfect. So I cannot, for the life of me, figure out why Latham was into her. I don't understand it. It was an unfounded love relationship sort of situation. As long as you could let that go, the story was really enjoyable. But I did find periodically throughout the book, because he was in love with her before the story started. He had been stalking her for a year by the time we start the story. And a lot of the time when Lily's doing things, saying things, making choices, and some of the things that she does, I could not help myself but sit there and go, why does he love her? Like, what does he see in her that I'm not seeing? So it feels a bit unfounded, that the way he behaves towards her, it was almost an ode to Latham, or a love story to Latham. And Lily had character development. She was a fully fleshed out, well-developed character. I just don't understand why he loved her. That part didn't make any sense to me. But that's really my only major critique of the book. I should probably also mention some of Death's dialogue, and I think it will probably bother some people, but it didn't bother me, and I will tell you why. A lot of his dialogue, when he's sending her messages, when he's leaving her these sort of stalker love notes, when they're just sitting there talking, the way he talks is really over the top and really melodramatic. And the first couple times I saw it, I was like, what is going on? Like, what is this? And then I remembered the author's note at the beginning, and that they had said, you know, I apologize for the book, and it reminded me that they weren't taking it super seriously, and that I probably shouldn't either. And so once I realized, like, the author's not taking this super seriously, I'm not supposed to take it super seriously, and oh, by the way, Death is an eternal, immortal being. He's gonna be a little over the top. He's gonna talk a little funny. He's literally timeless. Then it just sort of worked. Then it just sort of fit with the character, and then it just sort of made sense. So if you're a super stickler for like dirty talk and you need your character to sound smooth all the time, Death is not smooth. He is, if you like that sort of like antiquated, very old-fashioned, and also somehow kind of, not raunchy. Raunchy's not the right word, but very direct. Anyway, Death talks funny, but I think that that's the point. I think that that's on purpose. I think he talks that way because he's supposed to feel inhuman, and it does if you allow it to feed into the fact that he's not a man. He's Death. So yeah, I just thought I'd mention that if weird dialogue from the male love interest is going to throw you off, you might not like that. But once I realized what it was and what it was supposed to be, or at least what I think it's supposed to be, it worked for me. It really added to the whole, like, oh yeah, this is not a human being. So yeah, I just thought I'd mention that. Overall, I really liked this story. I thought the writing was pretty solid. I loved the love story, even though I didn't really understand why he loved her. Like the way watching it play out was very enjoyable to me. I even kind of liked the way that the sex scenes were written, which isn't really my thing. Normally, I'm not a sex scene girly. Like I'll read through them because I need to review the book for you guys. But like, I prefer Fade to Black. But they didn't bother me, which is unusual. So yeah, Death Obsession was pretty good, and I can definitely recommend it. Anyway, if you want to see more videos, I'm doing a full series on these 14 books in 14 days. It's a lot of smut. I have no excuses for myself. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, join the Patreon if you want to support me, or hop on over to the Discord if you want to have a chat about books or writing or anything else. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.